Have you ever had a terrifying experience on Craigslist? You're not alone. Many people have shared their shocking horror stories online, and today we're going to reveal some of the most spine-chilling ones. One user shared how they responded to an ad for a job, only to find themselves in a dangerous situation with a stranger. Another person talked about how they almost fell victim to a scam that could have cost them thousands of dollars. But perhaps the most disturbing stories are the ones involving encounters with potential buyers or sellers. From creepy messages to downright dangerous meetings, these experiences will make you think twice before using Craigslist again. So next time you're browsing through the site, remember to stay safe and trust your instincts. You never know what horrors may be lurking behind that innocent-looking ad. Let's begin, shall we?
Story 1. A Sinister Sale, the Craigslist Miata Nightmare. 4 years ago, haunted by the need to rid myself of my Mazda Miata, I ventured into the murky waters of Craigslist. My friend, with good intentions but little foresight, snapped a few photos and cast my advertisement into the digital sea. It wasn't long before my phone began to buzz, incessantly, insistently, with calls from prospective buyers. These callers, invariably older men whose voices crackled like static through the line, seemed utterly oblivious to the details of my listing. Again and again, they asked questions the ad had already answered. It was as though they were more interested in hearing my voice than discussing the car. I had naively hoped for buyers like myself, a 19-year-old female, enthusiastic and sincere. Instead, I found myself fending off an invisible swarm that buzzed closer with each call. The discomfort grew with every interaction, evolving slowly into a sinister chill that crawled up my spine. Eventually, one man's voice slithered through the phone with a tone that curdled my blood. He expressed a desire to see the car, but his intentions soon blurred into something darker, more ominous. He insisted on meeting at my home, refusing any mention of the car itself. His questions twisted toward personal prying. He wanted to know where I lived, my cross streets, as if trying to sketch a map to my doorstep in his mind. His persistence turned aggressive. When I hung up, he bombarded me with call after call, each one an echo of the last, demanding my location. Panic clawed at my throat. I rushed online to pull down the ad, to sever this growing threat. That's when I saw it. The photo my friend had taken, innocently, including me in the frame. It was not just the car these men were after. It was the young woman beside it. Realization dawned on me, dark and dreadful. The ad hadn't just sold my car. It had unwittingly sold a glimpse of me. I was not dealing with buyers, but with shadows lurking behind the glow of their screens, their intentions as hidden as their faces. I took the ad down, but the calls didn't stop. Each ring was a reminder of the danger, a pulse of dread. I changed my number, a feeble guard against a threat I could neither see nor fully understand. The Miata remained in my driveway, a metallic reminder of the ordeal, its bright paint dulled by the shadow of my anxiety. Nightmares began to populate my sleep, visions of unknown figures arriving at my door, their hands reaching not for the car, but for me. The safety of my own home felt breached, its sanctuary stripped away by the echoing ring of the phone. Days turned into weeks, and slowly the fear receded into a vigilant caution. I eventually sold the car through a dealership, a sterile transaction devoid of personal interaction. The Miata drove off, taking its spectral baggage along, leaving me to rebuild the peace it had disrupted. Yet even now, when the phone rings unexpectedly, a shiver traces my spine, a ghostly whisper from that Craigslist ordeal. It's a scary reminder of the world's hidden faces, of the thin veil between normalcy and nightmare. The experience etched a deep line, a border between who I was and who I have become. A survivor of my own naivete, now wary of the shadows that dance in the corners of digital marketplaces. Story 2. Echoes of a Sale, the Washer Incident. In the twilight of my occupancy, at an apartment with all the familiar comforts, including washer and dryer hookups, I found myself orchestrating a transition to a new home, a space less accommodating, devoid of such amenities. It was within this period of flux that I decided to part with my washer and dryer, setting the stage for a Craigslist encounter that would linger in my memory far longer than the echo of the closing door of my old apartment. The dryer found a new home effortlessly, a kind gentleman purchasing it for his daughter as she prepared to embark on her collegiate journey came by. Our transaction was smooth, marked by the kind of simplicity one always hopes for in such exchanges. We lifted the dryer into his truck, exchanged payment, and with a handshake, he drove off into the burgeoning evening. That chapter closed with a satisfying whisper of finality. The washer, however, was destined for a darker tale. The buyer, a man whose introduction was punctuated by a haggling text, seemed ordinary at first. We agreed on a price and set a time for the pickup. I was in the final days of my tenure at the apartment, surrounded more by echoes of the past than possessions, save for an air mattress and lingering internet connection. His arrival was delayed by hours, a prelude to the chaos he brought with him. When he finally appeared, it was not alone, but with an entourage of 5, cramped together in a truck bizarrely outfitted for transporting large glass panes. The washer was precariously loaded onto the truck, propped at a precarious angle against the glass pane racks, an image that struck a dissonant chord in my mind. Despite the oddity of the situation, I held firm on the price, an island of resolve in the rising tide of absurdity. That night, as the city whispered around me, the first of many messages arrived. The buyer, dissatisfied and belligerent, claimed the washer was non-functional. He demanded a return of his money, igniting a barrage of accusations and threats that escalated into a cacophony of harassment. I reiterated the as-is nature of the sale, suspecting the careless transport had been the demise of the appliance. This did not quell the storm. Within days, the situation crescendoed when I awoke to aggressive banging on my door and voices cutting through the stillness of 3 a.m., a stark contrast to the solitude I had known in that space. Perched on the second floor, I found a semblance of safety as I waited out the tempest below. The verbal assaults unable to breach the physical barriers of the building. The dawn after marked the end of my attachment to that old apartment. I moved my remaining belongings into my new sanctuary, leaving behind the shadows that had gathered at my doorstep. Yet, the echoes of that transaction followed me as the buyer continued to reach out through various channels, his anger undiminished over a mere $150 washer. Reflecting on the ordeal, a decision crystallized within me, firm and irrevocable. I would never sell on Craigslist again. The experience had drawn back the curtain on a realm where the mundane turned menacing, where transactions could transcend the boundaries of normalcy and brush with the nightmarish. It was a lesson in the unpredictability of human interactions, a reminder of the dark ballet that sometimes dances in the wings of our digital dealings. Story 3: Creepiness in the Driveway. 4 years have ebbed away since the night shadows gathered in the guise of a Craigslist ad, a listing for an entertainment center that invited more than mere buyers into the fading light of my quiet existence. That evening began with an innocent expectation, a woman's voice on the other end of the line expressing a keen interest in the wooden sentinel of many a family gathering. We set a time, and the clock greeted it without her presence. Queries sent into the void of the digital ether returned late, her words delayed like echoes in a hollow chamber. Is it too late to come by? Her message flickered on my screen well past the hour when shadows grow long and deep. With reluctant fingers, I tapped my acquiescence, inviting not just the night, but her into the dwindling safety of my abode. Minutes pooled into the anxious reservoir of waiting. 20 became 30, and as the hands of the clock drew a slow circle, my patience thinned like the crescent moon overhead. Each query sent into the creeping silence returned with promises of soon, always just 10 more minutes, until the hour grew heavy and bloated with unease. At the stroke of an unwelcome hour, her assurance pierced the night. I'm just pulling up. True to her word, headlights sliced through the veil of my curtains, an ominous glow that drew figures from the car like specters summoned by an unseen hand. 4 shadows joined her, a cadre of curiosity that filled my driveway with an uneasy presence. As they advanced, a cold prickle danced up my spine, a prelude to the chill of the night air as I opened the door. Her request, a chorus of opinions needed to judge the heart of my living room, met my denial. The threshold of my home, a barrier against more than the cold, now stood as a bastion against uninvited souls seeking entry. She cloaked her indignation in righteousness, wielding words like daggers aimed at my resolve. Accusations of lacking grace, of denying charity, were parried with a firmness born of growing dread. The night air grew thick with tension, a tangible shroud that muffled the sounds of the world beyond my porch. As I retreated, the sanctuary of my home sealed with the click of a lock. A final affront marked their departure, a crude salute to the night from one of her companions. They left as they came, a mystery wrapped in the mundane, leaving behind only the echo of their presence and a lingering unease that clung to the shadows of my home. Now, the echoes of that night resonate in the still moments when the wind whispers at the edges of my reality. The entertainment center remains, a silent guardian of a peace that was once disturbed. In the solitude of reflection, I ponder the thin veil that separates the ordinary from the obscured, and I listen closely to the quiet, half in fear, half in defiance of what might answer when I dare to call into the dark.